Hello everyone, it is Kirsten. If you don't know me, I am a mindset and transition coach for dancers. I'm a former professional dancer, BFA, and teacher, and a lot of other things. I got a comment on my Instagram recently like, I'm confused, what are you? I'm like, that's fair, I wear a lot of hats, but I'm here to talk about all things dance related, usually more on the mental side of things, but today I'm talking about the physical aspect of being a dancer, and as a vegan myself, I also get a lot of questions on how to do veganism well as an athlete. So I'm going to be addressing that today. Specifically, I will be talking about how to get plenty of protein, what supplements I recommend taking, how you can really know if you are actually as healthy as you can be and if your food is actually nourishing to you, as well as how to save a lot of money eating plant-based as a dancer, or even if you do incorporate animal products into your diet. These tips will really help you not only eat more sustainably, but save a lot of money. And by a lot of money, personally, by implementing these tips, I started saving 30 to 50% on my grocery bill every week. Who doesn't want that, right? Okay, so I hope you stay tuned to the end of the video where, I forgot to mention, I will also be sharing a recipe. And while you go into the kitchen to cook with me, you will be hearing tips about how I cook intuitively and just put recipes together on the fly, having fun, creating delicious, healthy meals without recipes. So let's go. So first off, let's talk about protein. Protein is actually quite easy to get on a vegan diet. I will say that a lot of people think that the vegan diet has to be really high carb, and just because you're not eating meat, that it's really hard to get protein. But in fact, in all whole foods, there is at least a trace amount of protein. And if you're getting enough legumes like beans in your diet, things like quinoa, tempeh, tofu, you can also be soy-free as a vegan. It is more difficult, but it's possible if you want to limit your soy or not have any at all. Also, if you are mixing different protein sources in your meals, like for me, I love to eat really high protein. Like I'm talking, I can easily get 70 to 95 grams in a day, like no problem, for the most part without protein powder. And the way I do this is in every meal. I've even started eating savory breakfasts, y'all. I mean, you can get protein by doing like a half cup of oats, adding chia seeds, adding nut butter, and even you can add protein powder or something like PB2, which is like peanut butter powder. I love that stuff. I add that into my oatmeal. And again, you don't have to do protein powder. That's not a requirement on the vegan diet. But if you're looking for a high protein breakfast that's also carby, you want that oatmeal, you want like the sweetness, you can go for that. But you could also do things like quinoa porridge in the morning, lentil porridge. I tried that recently. That is super high protein and actually quite good. But anyway, for my lunches and dinners, I'm always combining things like lentils or beans with quinoa or with rice. I don't have rice that often. Sometimes I even blend tofu into a sauce that I'm making to make it a high protein sauce. On top of that, I'm always adding sources of fat like nuts that also happen to have protein in them. I'm adding that into my meal, or putting sunflower seeds on top, or things like that, going for a balance of legumes, grains, and then also topping that off with nuts or seeds really has this kind of 1-2 punch of combining protein sources to make a very high protein meal. As you can see, I've also put protein sources on the screen here just so you can see like laid out what actually has protein. If you're not into beans all the time and you don't mind some processed food, I love the Bonza pasta, I think. Yeah, it's like pasta made out of chickpeas, and they have all sorts of different kinds of bean pastas like that. I think they're pretty good, as well as textured vegetable protein. I know a lot of people might hate on it because it's not like a super health food, but I love that stuff. However, I do stick to beans and quinoa a lot of the time, and there are so many different varieties of beans that I find it's really easy for me to just get tons of protein and I stay fuller longer. Now I'm going to move on to what supplements I highly recommend taking. But first, before I talk about supplements, I will say that you need, I really believe this, you need to get your blood tested. I started doing this last year. Depending on where you go and if your insurance is accepted, it doesn't have to be that expensive, and you need to get a blood test to test your nutrient levels in your blood, as well as it tests your hormone levels. This completely changed the way I take care of my body. And it really pulled me out of denial of like thinking, oh, just because I eat a really healthy diet, I am healthy. Our food is oftentimes not as nutrient dense as we wish just because of our food system. So many different reasons I can't really go into, or even factors of maybe your body isn't absorbing the nutrient dense food that you are consuming, maybe because you have leaky gut or something like this. It is so important to get your blood tested so you can actually see, like what I found. I felt fine, but I had no idea that despite my nutrient-rich diet, because I had previously been under a lot of stress and actually underweight because of my high activity, and I actually wasn't eating enough, I didn't know it, my hormone, my T3 and T4 thyroid response, I don't know what I'm talking about, it was low. So I was technically I had hypothyroidism and I had no idea. So I started incorporating whatever foods I could to help with hormonal balance. And this did help. But ultimately, I discovered that I had actually been so far gone for a while. I was experiencing brain fog, and it took me a long time to understand, like, I'd just gotten so used to having a foggy brain. I ended up having to take thyroid medication and progesterone. And overall, I'm really, really healthy. I made it sound very severe, but I just wanted to share that testimony because I knew I was eating a really healthy diet. My doctor confirmed this. I told her like all that I eat, and she was like, yeah, you're doing really well. And we kind of dove into my past, and she's like, that's it. Because I had let things slip and become really unaware of just what was going on in my body and how stress and just environmental factors had impacted that, I had to resort to medication to fix my hormones. But I'm also going to share in this video with you some important tips on how to eat well for hormone balance. But before I go into just supplements and things like that, you need to know what supplements your body needs. But these are just suggestions that tend to help everyone, no matter if you get your blood tested or not. But anyway, just wanted to put that out there. In addition to getting your blood tested, I highly recommend going to chronometer.com and just logging a couple days worth of food, just your normal diet, be really honest with what you eat. It might take a few minutes of work to just jot down everything that you ate over a few days, but I found it to be absolutely transformational in my understanding of how much of each nutrient I was getting on just an average day, so I could be honest with my diet and change it in order to nourish my body, not just go off of flavor or what I think I should be eating. This really helped me to look at it, my diet honestly, and change it for my optimum health. So I'd highly recommend that you do this as well. So first off, everyone, I really believe everyone needs to be taking a vitamin D supplement. Even if you think you're getting outside enough, I really believe you need that insurance. I thought I was getting out in the sun and everything was peachy, but no, I was slightly vitamin D deficient, which is common. I think everyone needs vitamin D, especially in the winter time, both to maintain the health of your bones, your tissues, actually your mood. There's such a thing as symptoms of depression when you have a vitamin D deficiency. And actually, symptoms of vitamin D deficiency can be fatigue, painful bones and back, depressed mood, impaired wound healing. I must repeat, if you're injured, you need vitamin D. I wish I knew this. Hair loss and muscle pain. I will say when I started taking, at first I started taking a high quality supplement that was 10,000 IUs a day. My joint pain significantly subsided. Like significantly, I was shocked. And now I take that same supplement every other day to kind of balance it out to 5,000 IUs a day. From what I hear from most medical professionals, that's kind of a normal amount to supplement. But again, talk to your doctor. Next is B12. We know that it's really important for vegans to supplement B12 because it is mostly found in animal flesh, meat as we call it. But I will say that even if you eat meat, it is a very, very common deficiency. So I would highly recommend supplementing with it, especially after you get checked. By the way, with all of the supplements I'm mentioning, I also have links below to some supplements on Amazon in various forms. If you're interested in checking those out, if you're already ready to buy some for yourself, you can go check those links out below. Next are two supplements that actually surprised me because I thought I was getting plenty of healthy fats in my diet that I knew had DHA. So I thought I was good. I was getting my omega-3s and all this. But actually when I started to supplement with DHA and DHEA, not only helped with my skin, I noticed a really big difference in my skin, my tissue repair, and for DHEA, that's really, really good for hormonal balance, which is so important, especially ladies. Very sadly, a lot of us are encouraged to be underweight in this industry, or you're praised if you already are, and many of us are also overworking our bodies so much that and have so little fat that combined with other factors, our hormones can get out of balance. So I would strongly recommend checking out DHA and DHEA. Other common supplementary needs for athletes especially are calcium, iron, and vitamin E. But I do really want to talk about getting an adequate amount of healthy fats in your diet. I know from my personal experience that I used to kind of have a phobia of fats because they are higher calorie, and I thought, no, I could just easily omit them from my diet or just eat trace amounts of fat and I'll be fine. But you guys, I really think this is where a lot of my hormone problems came from. I've struggled with acne most of my life, past the age of 11 or 12, and my acne has only just now started to get better over the last year as I started to just eat enough healthy fats from avocados, nuts, and seeds. And I used to be really like one of those people who followed the trend of going oil-free. I don't believe in that anymore. I'm not afraid of oils. I don't eat them in excess by any means, but I use just a little bit in my cooking. You will notice that if you're incorporating nut butters, nuts, seeds, avocados into your diet, your skin will start to look much more healthy, and hopefully you'll notice a regulation in your hormones. This might take some time to repair if you've restricted fats for a long time, but honestly, you might feel good at first restricting fats from your diet, but I really believe that creeps up on you. So ladies especially, do not be afraid of fats. Lastly, before we get into the cooking segment of this video, I am going to give you my tips on how to eat cheap, well, but inexpensive on a plant-based diet. So first, as much as you can, shop in bulk. If you're in the US and you have a Sprouts grocery store in your area, I think that they have great bulk food sections. This is where I get my nuts, my seeds, my grains, my beans, and I usually follow the sales and I will really stock up. So buying not only from the bulk bins, but buying in bulk. So really stocking up on whatever is on sale and then saving it in airtight containers until, for weeks and weeks until I run out of it. Even if you don't have a Sprouts grocery store, check out any local grocery stores you have and see if they have bulk bins. I would highly recommend getting your own reusable bags. I will link my favorite ones that I've used for a long time down below. Get your little reusable bags and just go fill them up with whatever you need, your oats, your almonds, whatever, beans, and usually in the long run, it will be cheaper and it's much more environmentally friendly. You can get just a little bit if you only need a little bit, or you can really stock up and get a ton. Next, I highly recommend eating seasonally. This is so important, not just for the sustainability of your diet and your health, but also because seasonal produce is usually in the grocery stores in abundance. Notice what's on display. Notice what's perhaps on sale. That is likely seasonal. Or just do a quick Google search. What is seasonal produce in insert whatever month it is for you, if you're watching this in the future. Right now is March. Like I said, seasonal produce is usually on sale. And then the other tip I have is don't be fooled by superfoods marketing. Honestly, if it's a plant, you can consider it a superfood. Even cabbage and white potatoes, people might think like, oh, it's light-colored food. So is cauliflower. People know that's good for you. There is lots of potassium and actually vitamin E and iron in white potatoes, but people hate on them so much, usually just because of the way they're prepared. But those are just examples of foods that are very healthy for you that are actually overlooked, and they're very inexpensive. I've noticed that things like carrots are a root vegetable, just like others that might be more expensive, but I go for carrots maybe when I want to watch my budget one week because they're usually very inexpensive, yet vitamin rich. Kind of look into the category of produce that you're looking for instance, squash, and look into price per pound, comparing different kinds of squash, and just get the cheapest one. You don't have to stock up on a very specific type of produce. If it's really expensive, you could get a substitute that's nutritionally comparable, but much less expensive. So just kind of release from your mind the idea that you need to eat expensive superfoods all the time, because that's mostly a marketing ploy. If you're eating whole foods, eating plenty of plants in your diet, you are getting a good amount of nutrients. Also, for protein sources, beans are usually the very cheapest. There are so many different types of beans. So normally what I do is if I'm really strapped for time, I will get canned beans. But I actually have just kind of implemented into my routine cooking a really big batch of dried beans every 2 weeks. And it lasts plenty of time. And it is so inexpensive. It's really actually easy to do once you get over the mental hurdle of thinking that it's a lot of work to cook your own beans. I've saved so much money that way, and I find that they're much tastier than canned beans. Plus, I can soak them and make sure they're even sprouted for optimum nutritional benefits and absorption of the nutrition of the beans. But no matter what, basically any plant-based protein source is going to be cheaper than meat. So that's an added benefit of this diet. Especially if you're getting the kind of meat that's not complete trash and like full of antibiotics and hormones and all that junk. And lastly, it's okay if you're not able to buy completely organic produce. Just look into the Dirty Dozen, or at least if you want to buy some organic, and mostly conventional, that's okay. Just prioritize the fruits and vegetables that you will be consuming the skin of as well, because the skin usually takes a lot of the pesticides that are put onto conventional produce. Speaking of produce, and before I get into the recipe portion of this video, I want to give a big shout out to Imperfect Produce, where I got some produce for the recipe segment of this video. I also talked about it in my last video if you want to hear more about Imperfect and also see my unboxing of my first produce box I got from them. But I would highly recommend checking them out. They have saved over 40 million pounds of produce that would just go to waste in the US. Food waste is a massive problem, and I love that Imperfect Produce is taking produce from farms, empowering those small to mid-sized farms by buying produce from them that would normally go to waste because of really silly cosmetic standards. They're putting that in boxes and delivering it straight to your door with minimal packaging, so it's very environmentally friendly, and it's also at about a 30% discount. So on top of that discount, I have a 50% off code for you to use so that you could get 50 off your first box. So why not? It is TTBallet50. So plug that in, visit the Imperfect Produce website, and enjoy the recipe segment of this video. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. We're about to get a little bit Iron Chef up in here, and I'm going to lead you through how I cook intuitively. And I happen to really enjoy cooking, but I just wanted to walk you guys through my process when I do a little bit of a recipe inspired. If you guys know Lauren Toyota's channel, Hot for Food, she does these recipe inspired videos where she just does, looks through her pantry and cooks something up and makes up a recipe. That is my life. And so I'm going to just walk you through my thought process as I cook, and we'll have some fun together, exchange some thoughts maybe, and I'll show you what I have to start with. First off, I was holding this. It's a leek. We've got this. I've got some leftover onion. I've got a lot of kale, my salad spinner, and my favorite part, I have three packages of mushrooms from my Imperfect Produce box. I also got the leek from Imperfect Produce. I also feel so in a garden because I got some rosemary from my neighbor's yard. And I love cooking my own beans. It is not that hard. I've got some lentils soaking, and let's get this party started. So, step one of intuitive cooking with Kirsten, just recognize that I don't like recipes, and I think it is so fun to be able to experiment in the kitchen, be present with your food, and just over time learn how long to cook things yourself. Okay, so I'm about to cook these lentils, and I learned this tip that even after soaking and rinsing them, you don't even have to take out the lentils and measure them and then put in a precise amount of water. I just kind of take my knuckle and put it down into the water until I can touch the lentils, and if it gets to about here, that's enough water. Just know that you can always add some. A lot of the mistakes that people are afraid of making in cooking are preventable or reversible. Like, you can really just adjust as you go and make little, just make little changes to end up with a glorious result. So the lentils are boiling, and I did 1 leek and half of an onion because I have 3/4 of an onion, but I thought, and this is the intuitive cooking thing, I know that leeks have an oniony flavor, and I wanted to not overpower them with more than enough onion, so just did a little bit of that. I'll add garlic, and while this is cooking, the last thing I want to do is sear, oh, it's not the last thing actually, still have that rosemary. Okay, I'm going to try to sear the mushrooms somehow and just get their own flavor developing, maybe their own texture, instead of just mixing it in. What I've learned as I've gotten better at cooking is that food is usually easier if you do it all at one, like cook all the ingredients at once and throw all the flavors together, and it can still be delicious. But I found that when I have the time, if I can cook the ingredients separately and then add them together, each ingredient shines just a little bit more. So for those of you who are interested in creating more delicious food and maybe want to spend more time in the kitchen, that is my tip. Cook them separately, use different spices on each. Don't be so worried about the ingredients not fitting together, because ultimately I think our food is much more forgiving than we think. And if you're using ingredients and spices that you like and putting them together, chances are the end result won't be disgusting because the parts are all flavorful.
Wait, can I tear one?
Yeah. Kelsey wants to tear one.
Wait, let's do it together.
Okay. Yay.
Oh my gosh, that was easily the most satisfying thing of 2019 thus far.
Yes. Okay, I'll keep going.
One more. Oh my gosh.
Okay, I'm gonna start to saute the mushrooms. I'll let you know what spices I end up choosing. And I'm about to drain and rinse the lentils so they stop cooking. Then I'll add it in with this onion and leek mixture. I will create a sauce for the lentil mixture. You'll see how this comes together. Here are the mushrooms. They're so pretty. Oh my gosh. Wow, that's a lot. I wish I had a cast iron skillet so I could do that searing trick where you weigh down the mushrooms and they get really charred on both sides. I feel like I have my own cooking show. It's my childhood dream come true. Oh my gosh, the kale. I actually have some leftover kale I think I'll add to the lentil mix. And yeah.
No, I was gonna go to this.
Okay. So I will definitely add some tamari, which is gluten-free soy sauce, to the mushrooms. It'll add that umami flavor that mushrooms already have. What the heck is that? Oh my gosh. Oh. Now you have to be careful with soy sauce because it can burn, but the beauty is that it can also cause whatever you're cooking it with to caramelize, which is awesome. Okay, I'll add some garlic powder. This is weird garlic powder, but oh well, that's what I have.
I love this.
Okay, and Kelsey suggested that we add this Mushroom and Company multi-purpose umami seasoning blend from Trader Joe's because, you know, we're going for that umami, that very savory, wholesome flavor. So why not?
It has a lot of salt in it now.
Oh, great. Okay, great. Lastly, I'll add that rosemary. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. Vegans out there, if you want to make a creamy sauce, here are my recommendations. Cashews. Now, don't fret if you didn't soak your cashews before blending them. Put them in water and either boil them, or I put them in the microwave for 3 minutes. Some people might hate on that, but whatever works, you know. Other than that, lower fat options are blending tofu into a sauce. It makes it creamy, adds protein. You can also I've done sunflower seeds before, hemp seeds, any sort of nut really. I just always make sure to add a fat into my meals, such as cashews or whatever it might be, not only to make it delicious, but we need healthy fats for our brain health, hormonal balance, our skin, all this stuff. It's really something you should not be avoiding in your meals. So anyway, that's just a tip on creamy sauces as a vegan, so you won't miss dairy. Okay, as I'm about to make the sauce to bind this whole meal together, I want to run you through some principles I always kind of hit as far as creating balanced flavors within the meal that help it be more delicious. So it has to be salty, maybe a little bit sweet from the produce. A lot of times fresh vegetables have a natural sweetness to them, or sometimes when you caramelize something like an onion, it can have a slight sweetness to it that really interacts nicely with the salty element of a dish. I always make sure there is a creaminess or a fattiness to my dishes. Oh, there's the microwave. And then lastly, I think I'm not missing anything. Acid. It is always important to me to add a little bit of apple cider vinegar or any sort of other vinegar, or maybe some mustard into a dressing, something that adds, or lemon juice, lime juice, a little bit of a zing to the meal, or some raw red onion into a salad. Having that sort of bite and sharpness, or the acidity, is really I think what makes a dish that's good for a few bites up to that next level where you enjoy it the whole time. There's also the element of texture. I will always try to implement a little bit of crunch, maybe topping my meal with sunflower seeds or something like that. It just adds some variety, and I think those elements make a dish delicious. My kitchen is a mess. Okay, we've got the cashews. We'll add this. I added some water already. I will adjust that according to how liquidy I want the sauce to be. Next, some saltiness and some umami flavor to balance or to complement the mushrooms. I've got some miso paste. Do that much. Splash of apple cider vinegar. Oh, gotta shake it up. Got the mother at the bottom. Salt. The miso is already salty, but just a little more. Y'all probably think I'm crazy. A bit more garlic powder. Oh my gosh, I forgot. This is one of my favorite secret weapons. I add these bouillon cubes to some sauces sometimes, and wow, it adds so much more of a depth of flavor. These are vegan chicken cubes. They're on sale at Sprouts a lot of the time. This is optional. And then I think I'll add a little bit of nutritional yeast. I get this in bulk. This is getting eclectic, as usual. Okay, put this on. Huzzah! Oh, okay. Or not. See how this goes. Okay, I think it's really good. All right, let's mix this all together and see what happens. I already added the kale into the lentil, onion, and leek mixture. I will add the sauce now. Ooh, that's the money shot. I'll just stir this up real quick. Okay, we came outside for the taste test because you're probably tired of my kitchen at this point. Take a look. I'm so proud of this. I really outdid myself. Kelsey helped. Thank you, Kelsey.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. Let's see. It's so good. So, like balanced and flavored. Kelsey, try. Try. Is it good?
Oh,
it's good.
My Lord.
See, trust yourself in the kitchen. Go for that balance of flavor. Use whatever produce you've got. It'll be delicious, I'm sure.